94% will fail this tricky British classic car quiz. Do you think you know the bestsellers of the 1980s? Test your knowledge with this tricky quiz. For each car shown, see if you can name it before the multiple choice options appear. Score 5 points for each correct answer without hints, and 2 points if you need the options but still guess it right. The final question at the end will show the #1 best-selling car in the UK of the 1980s. Trust me, it will be a surprise. Now let's start. Round 1. A. 1982 Ford Fiesta Mark II. B. 1983 Vauxhall Nova. C. 1980 Austin Metro. Or D. 1981 Talbot Sunbeam. Alright, the correct answer is B. 1983 Vauxhall Nova. The Vauxhall Nova was launched in Europe too, where it was sold as the Opel Corsa. In the UK it was known as the Nova, and it proved to be a worthy competitor to the Fiesta and the Metro. Round 2. A. 1984 MG Maestro. B. 1983 Austin Maestro. C. 1980 Vauxhall Astra. Or D. 1980 Ford Escort. The correct answer is B. 1983 Austin Maestro. Sold between 1983 and 1994 by Austin, and between 1983 and 1991 by MG, the MG Maestro Turbo had a claimed 0 to 60 time of 6.7 seconds that beat the Ferrari Mondial, which had a 0 to 60 time of only 7 seconds. While no members of the royal family were known to drive a Maestro, it was a popular car for government fleets, police forces, and company cars. Round 3. A. 1980 Ford Escort. B. 1981 Vauxhall Cavalier. C. 1984 Rover SD3. Or D. 1980 Ford Orion. The correct answer is D. 1980 Ford Orion. The 1980s belonged to Ford. Throughout the 1970s, it had 3 cars in the top 10 bestseller list, but during the 1980s, this increased to 5. While no British royals were known to own an Orion, it became hugely popular with company executives and middle-class families. While it was never a movie star, the Orion was one of Britain's most recognizable everyday cars in the 1980s. Round 4. A. 1982 Ford Sierra. B. 1982 Austin Ambassador. C. 1985 Vauxhall Carlton. Or D. 1982 Ford Cortina. If you picked D. 1982 Ford Cortina, you are right. The Cortina's name was inspired by the name of the Italian ski resort Cortina di Ampezzo. The Cortina was widely used by police forces and taxi services, further cementing its image as Britain's go-to workhorse. TV programs such as The Sweeney and Minder occasionally featured Cortinas as part of the backdrop of 1970s to 80s Britain. Round 5. A. 1980 Vauxhall Astra. B. 1980 Ford Escort. C. 1983 Austin Maestro. Or is D. 1981 Talbot Horizon. The correct one is A. 1980 Vauxhall Astra. While the Astra Mark I was not associated with the royal family, it became one of Britain's most common family cars in the 1980s. Company car drivers and sales reps loved the Astra, as it was seen as a more modern alternative to the Ford Escort. Police dramas and soap operas often depicted Astra Mark Is as everyday family cars, or used by criminals for quick getaways. Round 6. A. 1982 Ford Cortina. B. 1987 Vauxhall Cavalier. C. 1984 Austin Montego. Or D. 1982 Ford Sierra. The right one is D, 1982, Ford Sierra. The Ford Sierra, introduced in 1982, was the radical replacement for the hugely popular Ford Cortina. The Sierra's radical aerodynamic design was so different from the Cortina that many buyers were initially hesitant to buy it. The Ford Sierra became an iconic sight in 1980s and 1990s British films and TV shows, appearing in ITV's police drama The Bill, BBC's soap opera EastEnders, the 1980s and 1990s classic Top Gear, and 1979 till 1994 Minder. The Sierra was one of the best-selling Fords ever. Over 2.7 million units were sold, proving that Ford's gamble on futuristic design paid off. Round 7. A. 1983 Vauxhall Nova SR. B. 1980 Austin Metro. C. 1982 MG Metro. Or D. 1987 Ford Fiesta. The right answer is C, 1982 MGM Metro. The MG Metro, introduced in 1982, was a sportier version of the Austin Metro, designed to bring performance and excitement back to the MG badge. Despite the similar size, the Metro was intended as a big brother of the Mini, rather than as a replacement. The MG Metro was the first ever MG-badged hot hatch, paving the way for later cars like the MG ZR and modern MG3. Lady Diana, Princess of Wales, famously owned a standard Austin Metro, bringing positive publicity to the model. Round 8. A. 1981 Talbot Samba. B. 1983 Vauxhall Nova. C. 1988 Ford Fiesta. Or D. 1980 Austin Metro. If you picked C, 1988 Ford Fiesta, you are right. The Fiesta was incredibly popular with first-time drivers, making it one of the most commonly owned cars in Britain. The Fiesta name continued for over 40 years, with the last model produced in 2023, making it one of Ford's most successful cars ever. Round 9. A. 1987 Vauxhall Viva. B. 1982 Ford Sierra. C. 1984 Austin Montego. Or D. 1987 Vauxhall Cavalier. The correct answer is D, 1987 Vauxhall Cavalier. While no British royals were known to own a Cavalier, it was a hugely popular car among company executives and fleet managers. The Cavalier Mark II was one of Britain's most popular company cars, outselling the Sierra in fleet sales. Fleet car drivers loved the Cavalier, as it was cheaper to run than a Ford Sierra and more comfortable than a Ford Escort. Round 10. The best-sold car of the 1980s. A. 1980 Vauxhall Astra. B. 1980 Ford Escort. C. 1983 Austin Maestro. Or D. 1981 Talbot Horizon. The right one is B, 1980 Ford Escort. In the UK, the Ford Escort was the best-selling car of all time. In the United States of America, the Escort name was applied to several different Ford models, but all of them were different from the UK versions of the best-selling car. Princess Diana famously owned a Ford Escort Ghia in the early 1980s, which recently sold at auction for over £50,000. Princess Diana also owned a black Ford Escort RS, which was recently sold for £722,500. Did you get 10 out of 10? Share your score. If you love this quiz, wait until you see the rarest British classic cars of the 1960s or 1970s. Tap here to take the next challenge.